afternoon, everyone. This is Tony from our Alabama homestead. I know I have been focused on many issues relating to our Alabama homestead these days. I think about it every single day. And yes, it would be nice if we were there right now working on it, but it's a little warm anyway, so probably not the best time in the world to be doing a lot of physical activity. Now, we will be moving there in the fall, and one of the first priorities is going to be to do something about the heating system. And Mark and I have both decided that, yeah, we do want a wood-burning fireplace. It is a cabin-like atmosphere. There's wood paneling throughout the place. There is a brick wall. There's a lovely brick fireplace. And there just is no room for a cook stove. They're just a very small kitchen. It would be nice if we could put a cook stove in that home, but there's just no space for it. It's a very small home. It's only about 1,300 square feet. Very well defined. I mean, it's got good bones, but there really is very little room to modify anything unless you want to tear out the whole inside, which is not something we're prepared to do. We're going to work with what's there. And so we're looking at probably putting a wood stove insert, well, not a true insert, but a wood stove in the fireplace area. And hopefully that will be, I'm sure that will be enough to warm up the whole home. We have done a bit of research there and we know what's needed, so it's a matter of buying this and then of course Mark installing the stove and the chimney. And there is tremendous amount of wood on that property that we could use to heat the house. Now initially, if we don't have the time or the energy to do that, we can get an initial load of wood delivered, and there are companies in that area that will do that too, so that's a no-brainer. Now beyond that, there are a couple of things. There is a front deck that needs to be replaced. If you can call it a deck. It was a deck once, but now there's just, anyway, it needs to be replaced. We did replace front and back door, but they need the trim. That's not critical, but it certainly would help to put the trim on this fall. We need to put eaves troughs. Or one of my posters has said that they call them gutters. And I know that sometimes there are differences in terminology between us in Canada and folks in the US. I know that people describe things differently sometimes, but I think it was understood what was meant. But yes, we do need to put eaves troughs, and with the amount of water that we've had lately, the amount of rain, that is a bit of a worrisome thing. So that is another job that Mark is going to have to do, is front and back eaves troughs. We also want to install one more camera pointed right at the driveway and possibly my fig tree. But yeah, well, that's not a big issue. He can do that in a day, so that's not critical. The heating system will be important. The eaves troughs are important, and there is a structural issue that has to be done. When it needs to be done, how it needs to be done is going to be ascertained at some later date, but there is some issue there. And that is before we can even get onto the inside of the house. And yeah, a lot of work. So we want to do what's critical first. And of course, we'd love to redo the whole garage. It isn't happening. Love to redo the whole well house. That isn't happening. You know, we have to plan our projects and do a little bit at a time as we can. Certainly don't want to get into debt with that, and if we do, we want to pay off the debt before we go on to the next project. So being very, very cautious there, because it's very easy to get way over your head without even knowing what you're doing. So I did plant three great big huge pots with some fig tree cuttings, And I also threw some seeds, some herb seeds in it. But the soil was also, it may have had its own seeds growing in it. But from my cameras, I can see that there is green on the tops of those. Now, if I start to see more shoots growing up, then I can probably guarantee that the figs are actually growing. I believe that one or two of those fig cuttings are putting out shoots, but it's hard to, they're too far away from the cameras in order to get a good shot at what actually is growing. I just know there's a lot of green there. It could be totally weeds, but I'm thinking that there are some of those fig cuttings are taking root. And with all the rain that we've been getting, having them in a very, very sizable pot is a good idea. Now, when we cleaned up the yard, there were hundreds. It seemed like hundreds. Probably not. Probably in the range of 50 or 60, though, flower pots. And I did separate the cracked and broken and sun-dried ones from the ones that were still viable. And there was a young man who did some electrical work for us. Well, put in a whole panel, actually. He was saying that if I wasn't going to use those pots, that his girlfriend would love them. She's into gardening. And I thought about it. I was going to throw them all out. And I thought about it, and I did separate the good ones for him, and he did come and pick them up. Now, the issue with me getting rid of those pots is that I'm not going to be there. And I had no idea we have that much water. And small pots dry out very quickly. They pretty much almost have to be watered every day, every second day, in order for anything to survive. But I don't know if it's an exceptionally rainy this time of year. I hear it is. I hear that there's much more rain than usual. So they may have survived, but in my case, I didn't believe they would. So I gave them to somebody who was thrilled to get them. And he was amazed at the amount of work that we managed to do on the property from when he first came to change the electrical, put in a proper electrical box, because the one that was there was, wow, ancient and scary, let's put it that way. And we didn't want to turn on the electricity until that was resolved, and that we needed that resolved in order to get the well house, get the well working. So yeah, there was those very critical things initially. So, and they took a fair chunk of money because they were things that we had somebody else take care of for us. Those were unexpected expenses. And the interesting thing is that we did not realize how bad that those things were until we were actually in the home. And of course, there were other issues that there is water damage that we have to look after, and that's something that is an issue. There's water coming in from the back that absolutely needs to be looked after. So, yeah, that's what you get when you buy a house that's been abandoned. We'll take care of the critical issues first, and then the decorating inside and the enjoying the property and just being able to kick back and go there and just spend time. Well, that's not going to happen for a few years. I'm sure we can take days off here and there, but it's still going to be work. So, but that's fine. That's fine. We knew what we were getting into. Just you don't always know how bad it is. And in some cases, this property does not have anywhere near the problems that a few others that we looked at did. So there were others that we looked at that you had to replace the whole subfloor, and we didn't want to get into that. There was another property that we looked at that was seriously fire damaged, and it looked, we actually put an offer in on that place, but then when we had it inspected, it looked terrible. And somebody else was willing, we backed out. Somebody else was willing to pay a little bit more than we were willing to pay for it, so I'm sure they were happy with that too. And in the end, this is probably the nicest property. The house needs work, but any house that we were looking at would need work because we were looking at a house with property. Now, of course, the other thing that is an issue for us is that I have to start setting up some sort of a pantry down there. And I was telling Mark that perhaps we may have to use the well house as some sort of a pantry, because there really isn't room in the house itself. Perhaps we can use the dining area, but it's a bit of an unusual dining area. So right now, once again, all that we really have in the house is tools and essentials, you know. Yeah, just essentials, just things that we need that we can actually be in the house and working on it while we're there. And that is to reduce costs, of course. So yes, I'm still considering what do we do when. I mean, obviously the heating system is going to be very important. The eaves trough is going to be very important. The deck, I think, should be done at the same time that the eaves trough is done. And unfortunately, the awning at the back will likely have to be taken down, which is a real shame. It's a good, very large awning, but in order to put up the eaves troughs, it'll have to come down. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. And I don't think the way it is attached to the house that it can be salvaged, but you never can tell. We'll see what happens when you take it down, if it can be re-put back up with, because it is actually attached to the house. It isn't, and that's causing a lot of problems there too. Now, of course, while I'm here, I still have to focus on a pantry, and we are out of chili in the pantry. Like, Mark has gone looking for chili, and we've eaten chili here a few times, and that's a funny thing about chili, is that sometimes you just don't want it for months. And then all of a sudden you'll be eating it 3-4 times that month. So yeah, I'm completely out of chili, so I have to look at buying the ingredients for that and get that done. I probably should buy some more chicken carcasses. And Mark told me that he did see, when we were in Alabama, he did see in one of the stores that they sold chicken feet there. Only he said they called it chicken paws. He thought that was humorous. And I said, I didn't see any there. I said, you know, those are good to make chicken stock with. So if they are priced well enough that I can do that, I could make him his chicken stock while we're down there. So we'll see about that when we get there again. Always when there's a will, there's a way. You know, that's just the way it works. So I'm really looking forward to getting back down there. I think we're going to have our hands full in the fall. Mark is going to have a lot of renovation work to do, and of course I'll be by his side helping him. And I think that my first job will be to clean up the yard again. It will be the big job while he ascertains what to do about the heating system. So, and we certainly, if we don't get that wood stove in, we'll have to get electric heaters for the rest of the house. So one way or another, something has to be set up. And of course, a mini split was something else that was considered for heating. But I think that we're still leaning towards the wood stove. I think that it, let me put it to you this way, it just seems to fit in that environment, having a wood stove for heating. So anyway, this is Tony from our Alabama homestead, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you a whole lot more videos about what we're doing when we're actually down there. And I'm just hoping the time flies quickly here. I'll try to keep myself busy getting my pantry ready here and thinking about what I have to do about a pantry there. And that's the, you know, there's a pull here and there's a pull there, and that's something I've got to get accustomed to and get used to, in determining how I'm going to deal with 2 homes. I've never liked that idea, but now I'm going to have to learn to accept that and learn how to bide my time and my activities so that everything balances. Anyway, talk to you soon. Bye for now.